you're watching this on Super Bowl Sunday, you're a real one. If you guys are living under a rock, if you weren't on social media yesterday, then I'll show you guys what happened right here at the end of the Suns Warriors game. You guys can see I said we are witnessing greatness. Steph Curry does it again. If you guys don't follow me on Twitter, make sure to drop a follow. I'm tweeting about the NBA every single day. All right, so Pajemski's inbounding and there's 3 seconds left. Warriors down by 2. I'm not trying to, play the full clip because I'm not trying to get copyrighted, but you see the inbound pass is a bad pass. It's behind Steph. He has to reach out to get it, almost loses the ball, almost fumbles it. He just turns, shoots, 2 seconds, bang, nothing but net. Like, bro, look at, I don't even know how to explain it, but this was just such a smooth, shot. Look at this. No rim, straight up, just, it's just greatness. It's just greatness. And the Warriors go up by 1, and then the Suns have a quick play where they try to get it into KD, tries to, tip it up and in. Well, actually, it was like a jump shot. It wasn't like a lob play. They tried to get KD a quick little jump shot tip in. It was weird, but Draymond put the clamps on him. So the Warriors end up winning a big game last night, and I'm gonna call it a big game because it feels like every game for the Warriors at this point in time is a big game. They've been pretty much out of the play-in, looking in from the outside the entire season. They are now finally back in the play-in. Got to be feeling pretty good when you got Steph Curry on your team. And I know that's easy to say because he's one of the all-time greats. But what I mean by that is just how clutch he's been. You guys can see the stats on the screen this season. First in clutch points, first in clutch field goals made, first in clutch 3-pointers made, first in clutch points while trailing, first in clutch field goals made while trailing, first in game tying or go ahead field goals made this season. Give him clutch player of the year already. And you can see the stats from this season, but I want to go back to even last season when we saw the Warriors take on the Kings in the playoffs. It went to game 7. Steph Curry stepped up big time, dropping 50 points when the rest of his team didn't really supply much. 50 points in the win to advance them on. I know they ended up losing in the next series, but still very clutch performance. And Steph's just been so clutch. And as a Warriors fan, I feel so confident in him closing out games, whereas earlier in his career, a lot of the times, let's just be honest, he wasn't that clutch. And I feel like that goes for a lot of players though. A lot of players earlier in their careers, they gotta take losses. They're just not ready for the moment. Maybe they're a little nervous, you know what I'm saying? But now Steph Curry's what, 34, 35 years old. He's been to how many finals? 6? Something like that. I think 6 finals. I don't think there's a moment that's too big for Curry. And we see how clutch he's been in the regular season. I think if it was to come to the postseason, in June and the Warriors get in, which we'll talk about their chances in this video, I feel like Curry is going to have an all-time postseason. He's going to go crazy. Now, we'll talk about it more in this video, but I do have to say maybe that all-time postseason only lasts for a series. Maybe they get bounced in the first round, which then I guess it wouldn't be an all-time postseason. But you guys get what I'm saying. I think he's going to erupt, go crazy. Whether the Warriors win or lose, I think Curry is, I don't know, I just feel it. I just feel like he's gonna go crazy this postseason. Before we talk about the Warriors more in this video, I want to talk more about Steph and really just look into the numbers. So I looked up most points per game, not total points, but most points per game in the fourth quarter in the NBA this season. Giannis with 8.8, clearly leading the pack, which honestly surprised me. I knew Curry would be high in this list. He's 3rd, as you guys can see, behind Trae Young with 8 points per game in the 4th, and Giannis with almost 9. Giannis has been dominating the fourth quarters, but Curry in 3rd place with 7.8. Behind him is Anthony Simons, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Tyrese Maxey, Luka Doncic. You guys can see the rest. And then I looked up which NBA players have scored the most points in overtime this season. Steph Curry leads the way, and it's really not close. DeRozan, kind of close behind, 28, but Steph Curry, 33 points in overtime. And I don't know the stat. I'm sure if we looked it up, the Warriors would be leading it, but it feels like the Warriors playing an overtime game, almost every 4th game. They've been in a lot of close games, and in almost all of those close games, Stephen Curry has taken over. Even in that Lakers game, if you guys remember that Lakers game from 1 to 2 weeks ago, the Lakers ended up winning it, but I think it went to double overtime. It was a crazy game, possibly the game of the year. Curry was going crazy. Even Klay hit a big shot. I think Wiggins, all of them were going crazy. But even in the losses, Steph's been locked in. Obviously, Steph's been on an absolute tear. You guys can see this month in February, he's been averaging almost 32 points per game. He had that 60 bomb against Atlanta, and the amount of 3-pointers that he's making is actually crazy. Obviously, everyone knows he's an all-time great. He's the best three-point shooter of all time. But last night he had 9, which is actually crazy because he only had 10 field goals. Usually, it's not that much of, you know, this is close. Like only 1 shot that wasn't a 3. Usually he has a lot of like layups and other stuff. But 9 threes last night, 11 against the Pacers. He did have this dud against the 76ers, but they ended up winning by like 30, so it doesn't matter. 4 3-pointers against the Nets. He had 10 in that 60 bomb, and then he had 4 against the Grizzlies, 8 made against the Sixers, 9 in that double overtime game against the Lakers, 6 against the Kings. The man's been on a tear. All right, enough Steph talk. You guys might have been getting a little bored of it or a little annoyed, but Draymond Green, since coming back from that suspension, the Warriors looked like a completely different team. Last night, you saw him put the clamps on KD in a crucial moment. He had 15 points, 9 assists, 7 boards. Draymond's been hooping, and I expect Draymond to keep it up. Now, the guy that I'm not sure what to expect from is Klay Thompson. Obviously, if you guys are on Twitter, I don't know about Instagram. I don't really go on there that much. But if you're on social media, I assume you see the stuff about Klay Thompson saying he is not the same player. He's just in his head a lot. You see the mental battle going on with him. You know, they have him coming off the bench some games. Sometimes he's not in the closing lineups. There's just a lot of just drama, a lot of things going on with Klay Thompson and the Warriors. I mean, look at the numbers. In February, he's shooting 33% from the field, 24% from 3. That's crazy. In a game where he was 2 for 13, 2 for 9, 1 for 7. I mean, it just absolutely is unlike Klay. January was a little bit better, shooting 43% from the field, 40% from 3, which is really good. You know, I thought Klay started bad. If we go all the way back to November, I mean, his numbers aren't even that bad. December, 35% from 3, 39% from the field. That's really not like Klay. Actually, hold on, it's not on the screen. There you go, 35 and 39. That's not really like Klay, and a lot of people were getting on him early in the season, but in December, in January, he played pretty solid. Now, as of late, it's a little shaky. I'm a Warriors fan, so I don't know if that changes anything that I'm about to say, but I honestly think the Warriors can like win at least a playoff series with Klay playing, you know, minimal minutes, with him having minimal production. But obviously, if you're gonna go on a deep playoff run, you're gonna need Klay Thompson to play like Klay Thompson, or at least like a slightly worse version of the Klay Thompson that we've known. Because this Warriors team does have other options. You have Steph Curry, obviously, who's gonna be the main option. And then you have, in my opinion, the second option, the new emerging piece, Jonathan Kuminga. I say he's the second option now. I don't know, maybe you guys disagree. Then you obviously have Wiggins, who, I mean, he gets bashed a lot by the media, but if you watch the games, I mean, he's been playing solid. Obviously not great, not the player that, you know, you're paying him to be. You got Wiggins, you obviously got Draymond, who's gonna be solid. Podziemski provides some offensive production, you know, 10 points per game sprinkling in there. You obviously want Klay to play like Klay, but I don't think it's the absolute end of the world if he can't play like that prime Klay that we kind of expect. It obviously would be bad. Maybe they don't go all the way, but I do think the Warriors could win a playoff series with Steph Curry playing like Steph, dropping 35 points per game. Then you get Kuminga giving you 20 plus. You got Podziemski sprinkling in 10, Wiggins giving you 15. You know what I'm saying? I think that there's a world where, you know, Klay can score 10 points per game instead of, you know, 18, and the Warriors be just fine. And obviously, Kuminga's been insane. I have a whole video I made about him like 5 videos ago or something. I don't know. You guys can watch that if you want, but look at these numbers, especially the points on the far right. 22 points per game in February, and in January for the whole month, he averaged 21 points per game. This is a huge jump. Look at him, pretty much dropping 20 plus every single game. Some of these games, you know, he's 18, 18, 16, just providing crazy offensive production. Whereas, you know, in December, he was only averaging 14. In what is this? November, he was only averaging 11. Like, huge improvements here from Kuminga. He is really emerging. A lot of people were wondering, and is this guy gonna break out? Do the Warriors have to trade him so that they can really win now, get pieces that can help them now? Kuminga has fully flipped the switch and is helping the Warriors win now. After a 4-game win streak, the Warriors are finally back at 500, and they're finally in the play-in. The Jazz were in the play-in for a while, and it just kind of felt weird. Like, I feel like everyone kind of knew the Jazz would eventually fall out. Like, they're solid. They've been playing solid for the roster that they have. I don't think anyone expected them to be in the play-in picture with the loaded Western Conference. Even the Grizzlies, I feel like, were kind of expected to be in the picture, but obviously they're dealing with a ton of injuries and stuff. So they've fallen out. The Rockets were in there for a little bit, but now they're 23 and 29. Their start was a little bit unsustainable. Warriors finally in. The play-in matchup would be Lakers versus Warriors if the season was to end today. And to be honest, there's a pretty good chance that we end up getting that matchup. The Lakers are, 3 games behind the Mavericks. Warriors 4 games behind the Mavericks. It would take a lot for these teams to pass, the Mavs or the Pelicans or any of these teams. It can happen, but as it stands right now, there's a pretty big gap between, the Lakers and the Mavericks. And a lot of people love to bash the Warriors because they've just been on such a great run the last decade, and they started off really bad, but they've actually had the hardest strength of schedule this far in the NBA season. And so the remainder of their schedule is going to be pretty easy. So they're on a 4-game win streak. You see they beat Brooklyn, and this is actually is not the easiest of games. Brooklyn, Philly, Indiana, and then Phoenix. So let's see what they have coming up. Again, 4-game win streak. They've won 6 in their last 7, including 2 games against the 76ers and a double over. Bro, this could have actually been a crazy win streak. If they beat the Lakers, they lost by 1. They lost by 1 to the Kings, and also an overtime game against the Hawks. What would this be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a row that they basically could be, on a winning streak for. Moving forward, we have 2 games in Utah, both definitely winnable. Gotta win at least one of them. Then you have a home game against the Clippers, home game against the Lakers. You have Charlotte, home against the Nuggets, at Washington, at New York, at Toronto, at Boston is gonna be kind of tough. But a lot of these games are good. They're set up to win. A lot of the tough teams, like, the Clippers, you got, where's Denver? You have Milwaukee. A lot of these games are at home for the Warriors. So that is a really good sign. And a lot of the bad teams you're on the road for, like Washington, I'd consider Utah, Toronto, whatever. When we talk about these teams and going on a playoff run, something I always like to look at, if you've been watching the videos, is offensive and defensive rating. So where do the Warriors stack up against the rest of the league? They are currently 12th with a 117.4 offensive rating. I feel like that's pretty good for the Warriors, especially because they've been so shaky offensively. Again, it's been pretty much all Curry. Then you have the emergence of Kuminga. Their offense has been shaky. Defensively, it might be, kind of bad. They're 20th with a 116 defensive rating. That is not good. Then if we go to net rating, they are 13th in the NBA. You guys can't see the column, but just know they're 13th. Also, shout out to the Celtics because they are the first team to get 40 wins. And I mean, they are really just separating themselves from the rest of the NBA right now. 12 losses is actually crazy because the season started in October. It is February. It is February and the Celtics have only lost 12 games in what has it been, 5 months? That's crazy. So how do I feel about the Warriors and the season and where it's headed? Are they going to make a deep playoff run? So I do feel like they're going to be a play-in team. I don't think they're going to be top 6 in the standings by the end of the year. That would be crazy if that happened. They're going to have to win some big games in the play-in. Maybe it's 1. If they get to the 7-8 seed, they only have to win 1 game, and then bang, they secured the 7th seed, and they'll probably play, the Timberwolves or the Nuggets or the Clippers or the Thunder in the first round. So going to be a tough first round matchup. To be honest, if the Warriors get in, and if we match up against the Timberwolves or the Thunder, I would be feeling pretty good. Now, if we match up against the Clippers or the Nuggets, I don't know about that. That would take a lot to win a series like that. But Timberwolves, Thunder, I like those matchups, especially because those teams are a little bit more inexperienced, going up against the Warriors, Dynasty, Curry, Klay, Draymond. I feel good about that. The Warriors going on a deep playoff run will be solely on the back of Stephen Curry giving them an all-time performance in a bunch of playoff games. When you got a team that's, pretty much 550 games into the season, it's going to take a lot for them to go on a deep playoff run. We kind of saw that from the Heat last year, though. They did it as an 8 seed. And if there's going to be another 8 seed to do it, why can't it be this Warriors team led by Steph Curry?